Hi, I'm Daniel, and before the episode starts, I want to briefly talk to you about the Garden Outreach Project, a WCF program focused on putting faith into action. Our mission is to inspire and support Christadelphians in North America to share Christ's love through outreach initiatives. This is done by facilitating national and local outreach activities, supplying resources, and providing funds to help brothers and sisters serve those in need. For example, in 2020, over 40 ecclesial groups participated in our Bags of Love initiative, which saw over 800 sleeping bags distributed to shelters and those without a home. If you, your ecclesia, or CYC want to learn more and get involved with our latest initiative, please visit our website at www.thegardenoutreach.org. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Garden Outreach for the latest news and encouragement. And now, here's the show.
Welcome back to A Little Faith. I'm here with Sister Virginia Brierly. Really excited to talk to Virginia about some of her life and her involvement in WCF. How are you doing today, Virginia?
I'm good, thanks.
It's great to talk with you. We're starting a series of profiling different people who work for WCF, different board members as well. For someone who's never met you, tell your life story.
Oh, great, thanks. Describe the universe, right?
Yeah. Where were you born? Let's start at the top.
I was born in Indiana. My father was an aeronautical engineer, and he was teaching at what they called Tri-State College at that point, which happens to be Triune University now.
Wow.
Yeah, where there's a Bible school there now. Yeah, but originally my family was only out there temporarily for that assignment. It was during the war, Second World War, the end of the war. And when that assignment was over, they moved back to Philadelphia, which is the area that I really come from, and that's where I grew up, in the Philadelphia area. Both my mother and father, grandparents, back 5 generations, I guess, were Christadelphian. That was my world from the beginning, I guess is a way of putting it.
What ecclesia did you attend as a child?
It was in Philadelphia. It doesn't exist anymore. It was in Philadelphia. And shortly after Russ and I got married and left Philadelphia, they decided to close it down. I don't think there was any connection between the two events, but it was one of those things where the meeting itself was in Philadelphia and nobody lived in Philadelphia. Everybody had, gone out to the suburbs, shall we say.
Right.
And so just geographically, it made sense to close down that meeting. And most of the people that went to that meeting, I think, went to what is now known as the Morristown, New Jersey Ecclesia. So there's a lot of history there.
Right. How did you and Russ meet?
I'm not real sure. Russ is a few years older than me. He won't like me saying that, but when you're in your teens and somebody is in their early 20s, there's a world of difference. But
yeah.
But probably it was Wilbraham Bible School, like so many others at Wilbraham. I look back at that time, Wilbraham and the CYCs that we had, and I'm just very, very thankful for all the different connections, the people, and I felt, I look back on that and I realize how much that impacted the rest of my life, the friendships that I made then, and the support system, and so on and so forth. And I really am very thankful that we're getting back to live Bible schools now after the COVID, because especially for the young people, I think it just is very, very important to have those contacts, not just in your own ecclesias and your own CYC, but beyond that. Really makes a difference.
Yeah, so I totally agree with that. For some reason, it's a critical age for making connections and keeping connections.
When I look back and I think those connections were very important, but I think to me, it's, different things, I think, speak to different people. I think God works with each of us as individuals. Mm-hmm. And, I look at back then when I was, of all things, when I was a teenager, and I think the reason that I believed then was because of the prophecy and the history of Israel. That probably sounds strange to some people, but that to me was the wall that I kept running into, that I couldn't get around those facts. And the very fact of Israel's continued existence and the prophecy concerning their dispersion and their being gathered back together. And of course, this, I grew up in the 50s and the early 60s at a time where Israel had just become a nation again, and it was, it was in the news all the time. So, I really think, and even now, there are times when you start questioning and you're wondering and not seeing all this, is it really so? And I end up hitting that brick wall again. I can't get around that. That's so unusual and yet prophesied and still existing. And so I think that's one of the things that really convinced me, actually at a very early age, that I agreed with everything that I had been taught concerning the scriptures.
How old were you when you got baptized?
I was actually 13.
Me too.
Wait, were you really? Yeah. I had a lot of opposition. I was too young, and I don't know if you ran into that or not. But I was very convinced, and of course I'm sure you've run into it too as you get older and you realize that a lot of your conversion happens as you live. You start out with a basic belief, but as you go through life, I think little by little you become converted. That faith grows, through one another. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Russ was there at Bible school several years, but he was in a different group. And then he went off to California, and he, I didn't see him for a few years. And I got to an age where I realized that maybe there wasn't anybody for me on the scene, and I became convinced that I was going to be living the single life, shall we say. And so Russ was down in Jamaica at the time when I wrote down to him and I said, what can a single sister do in the mission field? And he wrote back, and we exchanged maybe 2 or 3 letters. And next thing I know, he's coming up to Philadelphia. And as he came up the coast through Florida and DC and Baltimore, he stopped at each place to kind of show slides at the time about what was going on in Jamaica. But he came to Philadelphia on a Saturday, and he called our place, and it was just Dad and I then, and so Dad invited him to stay and with us the weekend while he was there. And so he arrived on a Saturday morning, and by Tuesday evening, he and I were engaged.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but when you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we were engaged by Tuesday, and that was in February, and then we were married by the end of May and traveling across country on our honeymoon. And the first place we went when we finally got to California was to your grandparents' house.
Oh yeah.
And they were kind of our kind of the central location for us. They really took care of us when we arrived on the West Coast there. And I always remember and was very thankful for that relationship.
I mean, where did you guys kind of settle, I guess? And I know you've had children and stuff like that. Where was life made most of the time? Well,
we started in Orange County. We had an apartment in Fullerton for a couple of years, and then we moved up to the San Fernando Valley. And our oldest was born while we were in Orange County, and then our second was born when we were up at the San Fernando Valley. We always belonged to what was then the LA Bell Ecclesia, which I guess is no longer in Bell.
Right.
I'm not sure where it is actually.
The Los Angeles Ecclesia is in Santa Fe Springs now.
In Santa Fe Springs now. Okay. We made a lot of, connections when we were there at the time. And then less than 5 years after we were married, we ended up getting transferred to Florida.
Mm.
And then we were there for a couple of years, and we'd always wanted to go into the mission field. And so we ended up going down to Costa Rica for 3 years. And then we were transferred. Russ was working for GT Sylvania, and we thought after 3 years it was time to come back. And so we were transferred up to Indiana, southern Indiana. We were there for a couple of years and transferred to Virginia. And we stayed in Virginia for 36 years.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we really got to know Virginia.
Which part?
The southeast corner near Williamsburg and Norfolk and down that area. Which brings me to WCF, because Williamsburg, the Williamsburg Christadelphian Foundation has its roots in Williamsburg, Virginia. And several of the founding members were from that area. And we got to know those people very well, and their purpose in starting WCF. And so I kind of, we learned about WCF from back in, I guess, the early 80s, which I think it started in 76 or 77. But we knew several of the people that were involved. We knew Woody Legg and Tony Giordano and Morris Wubbles and so on and so forth. Cora and Bobby Morissette were all involved. So that whole group we got to know when we were down in Virginia. One of the things, we have moved around a lot and have gotten to know a lot of brothers and sisters around the country. And that's been a good thing on the one hand, but it's very hard because you get to know people and then you leave. and you miss them, you miss them. Yeah. I guess the other piece to all of this is the fact that I ended up a CPA, ended up in the accounting field, which was, if anyone had ever asked me back when I was 18 or 19, what are you going to do with your life? Well, at that point, of course, it was the concept of married and children, and then it was not that, and then it became that. But it really was more Russ's plan, the whole accounting thing. He wanted to have, he was thinking in terms of the family. He's an accountant, and he was thinking in terms of the family business in accounting. So after my kids were in school, I went back to college. I already had a couple of years, and went back to college. And I wanted to be something like a physical therapist, but he decided that accounting would be a better thing. So I ended up going into accounting. But I had always wanted to be in something that I felt like it was helping profession. And somehow accounting, dealing with money and taxes, didn't sound like that to me. For the sake of the family, I did the accounting, and for some reason, math comes easy to me, so it probably wasn't a bad choice. But I decided that if I was going to do the accounting thing and I was going to spend time on it, then I was going to do the CPA route and do it right. And the really interesting thing that I found in going into accounting is that I have been in a position to help a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I ended up with my own CPA practice, and I was able to help a lot of small businesses. Anyone who's worked in a small business knows the challenges of a small business. Mm-hmm. And I was really able to help with a lot of small businesses in the area that we lived in. But I was also able to help with a lot of small nonprofit organizations. And so at one time, I was actually auditing maybe 12 or 13 different small nonprofits in the area, nonprofits that really couldn't afford large accounting firms, but had to have audits done. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to offer very reasonably priced services to a lot of these nonprofits, and got to know the people that were running the nonprofits and had a relationship with them, and eventually got involved in some of the work they were doing. And So, that was a really positive experience when everything was said and done. So sometimes you can be kind of surprised by events. But the other thing that's happened now that I'm retired, I found that my accounting background has been very helpful in areas such as with WCF and working as the treasurer for WCF. So in the end, it was a good move, I think.
When did you come on technically to WCF as the treasurer?
It was 3 years ago in 19.
Okay.
I think the board has gone through a lot of planning and development, trying to find programs that will be of benefit to the brothers and sisters, and feeling their way as to what will help. And I think during the COVID, they were, the WCF has been able to do a lot to help the brotherhood in things like the online Bible school that they ran for 2 years during the worst of the COVID.
Right.
And also, a lot of the video programs and a lot of the faith programs, I think, have been very helpful. So it's been a time of change and development during those 3 years.
I think I must have come on around the same time. I started at the end of 2018, and absolutely, I think we were really uniquely positioned very well, actually, I think, for COVID and for the challenges that brought on the community, able to pivot and I think do a lot of really good things.
I think that's true. And I think one of the blessings, if you want to put it that way, that happened during the whole COVID process was that we became more international. And so, like with the online Bible school, we were able to pull together resources, not just from North America, but truly and literally from around the world, and make us feel and have that larger community involvement and connection.
Mm-hmm.
That to me was, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been a real positive. And I'm hoping that now that we are getting back to live programs and maybe are limited to some extent in our travel because of different things, that we don't lose that international community connection that we made during that time, because I think that was a very positive thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've, during this period of time that to me has been very, very positive, and that is that WCF has been able to provide a platform, a structure for many people who have wanted to volunteer, who've wanted to do things, but they haven't known where to go or what to do or how to do it. And so we've seen that the board itself isn't too involved with the actual running, shall we say, of the garden program, but we do support it in several different ways. But that's just one program where a lot of people have been able to get in and at whatever level they want to get involved. That's been, to me, a real positive. And we're actually now developing and have brought on board a HR volunteer coordinator who kind of wants to open that up to providing a database and a resource for brothers and sisters and young people who want to get involved in volunteer work and need the structure and the organization. So that's another thing that WC is getting involved in.
Right.
And that of course brings us to the area of the Touch to Teach or the Whitefield programs. One of the things that WCF has been in for many, many years, and that is supplying resources, both monetarily and through volunteers of work in several different areas outside of North America. And we've been very blessed to be able to do that and have the contacts in these areas. And that has continued. That is one of the things that has continued on in these 3 years. And of course, during COVID, we saw so many areas outside of the North America who we were struggling, but areas outside of North America and Asia and such, and Africa, were struggling even more. And
Right.
we were able to help in reaching out, and there again providing the means and the method to reach beyond ourselves to help others.
Right. Yeah, you are critical to that work. I mean, you see all the checks that go out, all the bank transfers that we're very thankful to distribute. Our brotherhood here is more easily able to raise funds, than other countries, than the countries we help out. I think it's something important for us as a North American community to focus on too. That we have to, we have brothers and sisters who we can help very easily at really very little true actual sacrifice on our side. We live very comfortable, safe lives, and we're able to help those who don't live very comfortable, safe lives.
Yeah, and as you said, sitting in my seat, the funds that are sent out and where they're going, and the contact and the need, and seeing that people can be helped, and we really, to be able to do that. Maybe one of the things that WCF can do is to be better at making known what's actually going on and what's happening, so that people realize and are more sensitive, I guess, to life outside our own little world in other areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a real blessing to me to be able to, in my retirement, sit here at my desk and feel like I can be of help to others.
Is there anything else that WCF does that you kind of are particularly passionate about these days?
There is one area that I haven't touched on that to me is I am so very thankful for this. And I there again, from where I am, I see people writing in about it. And that's the music, the whole music area. And music is one of those international communications that just touches everybody. And that has, there again, during the whole COVID, but now it's continued, the hymns for Sunday and the other music. I'm hoping that we can really expand this area greatly in helping us to connect and being involved and spiritually uplifted.
Well, thank you, Virginia. This has been really great.
Yeah.
You're really a joy to work with. This has been a treat to get to know you a little bit better. I'm thankful for the work that we're doing, and I guess I hope the message for anyone who's listening to this and learning more about you and kind of seeing some of the inside of some of the work we do is to get involved with us. Like you're saying, any amount of volunteer time, work, or effort, we can find a home for you in WCF. You don't need to be as involved as Virginia.
No, however involved you want to be, and whatever you can bring to the table.